on. It went live, but don't worry about it. I can't hear you though. Hold on. I ain't trying to do that. I wasn't trying to do that.
Hello. Hello.
Okay, there we go. There we
Hello.
go.
Can you hear
I
me?
can you hear me now?
Yes. Can you? I've been hearing you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear
Oh,
you.
perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
It was me. It wasn't you. I got you now. Though we're here now. How you doing?
Oh, I'm great. Super busy,
Mhm.
but blessed.
I bet. I bet. I see you. Always making moves.
Yeah, I have a shoot after this, so I'm running a little behind schedule today, but I'm here.
You are. I'm so glad that you are here. I'm so glad that we get this chance to talk
Awesome.
because, I'm excited. The people love you too. So everybody knows you. The people love you. So,
What's up, y'all?
so yeah, this is actually live streaming on it's going to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
All right
So
now. What's up, Facebook,
Insta-
YouTube, and Twitter?
Instagram hasn't given us that option yet. I wish they would to be able to. It's a different thing I got to do with Instagram.
Oh, okay.
But here we are. So we won't keep you too long because I know you're busy.
It's all good.
But let me just make sure everything is checking out. Okay, there we go. Okay, so it's on there. It's all there. Okay. So, well, first, I'm Nene. This is Nene at Night. This is my podcast that I do every Wednesday. Because Hump Day is the best day to talk about sex. Well, every day is, but but can you just introduce yourself and tell the people just a little bit about you?
Yeah, so my name is Tayomi. Online, I go by Glamazon Tayomi. I am a certified sexologist, a certified authentic tantra practitioner, pleasure coach, erotic content creator, and sex blogger. I'm also a YouTuber. I started my YouTube channel in 2010. So I started right when YouTube got started. And yeah, I started working in sex education because I saw a lack of Black voices being represented. And, at the time when I was researching, it was like 2008, 2009. And I didn't really see a lot of sex experts out there. Of course, sex therapists existed, but they didn't really have a lot of visibility, especially Black sex therapists or, those who are sex educators. And so I just jumped in, started my blog, glamorerotica101.com, and its YouTube channel, and stuff just took off. And so here I am now, 10 years later, still in the game, crushing it, influencing
10
people and
years.
changing lives.
10 years is a long time. You're a veteran in the game.
Yeah,
You are.
and really, I'm like a baby in the game at the same time because, like, I feel like I'm just getting started. And even though I've been doing this work for 10 years, people are still very much ignorant around sex. It's beyond me. I'm like, damn.
You you well, I've been doing it just a little over 4 years, and it's amazing. It's definitely amazing to hear the things that people say about sex, and a lot of people have asked, well, what do you for? And I'm like, questions like that is why they need me because I'm like, everybody's not just out here having a lot of sex. Some people are very green when it comes to sex, and some people are ignorant when it comes to sex. And so I'm like, that's why they need people like they definitely need people like us.
Absolutely.
Uh, and I did it because, well, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and I didn't see any of us really. So I'm like, there's no Black people really talking about sex. I'm like, hmm, okay. I want Black people to be, I guess the goal for Black people to be more comfortable with sex. Because we got here because somebody was having sex. And I'm like, yeah, your grandparents had sex, your mother had sex. Like, that's how we got here. So And you were one of the first people actually. Once I started getting into it, I was like, "Who is this girl right here?" And I'm like, she's amazing because you're free with, and I love anyone who's just free to be who they are. And I'm like, gotta follow her, gotta see what she's about. And then I realized how young you were too, and I'm like, oh, we're around the same age. This is even better because someone to relate to.
Exactly. I started this when I was 22 years old. And when I first started, my mom was like, all right, this is cool and all, but when is it going to make you some money? Because when I first started, I didn't like the money aspect didn't matter to me because I was like, I'm just trying to get the information out there and grow my name. And there was no blueprint on how to like grow my business or, do it. So I just jumped in and just, a lot of trial and error, a lot of censorship and a lot of takedowns and things like that, but still here. And the thing about our culture, about Black people, our culture, there's a lot of things in our culture that influences the way that we think about sex. And a big part of that has to do with the religion that was given to our ancestors when they were brought over here, and then also the treatment of our ancestors when they were enslaved, and all that has trickled down and been passed down from generation to generation without actually healing it. So we have this, it's really layered. And so our people being more comfortable with sex is going to take a lot of healing in this area for us as a collective to really embrace it. But there's so many of us that already do. So many of us that are a part of the lifestyle, so many of us that are doing this work. And then there's still so many of us that are still kind of lost and unaware of how to even change and fix the things that they don't think probably have solutions, but they do. So I'm happy to see more Black folk, men, women, and non-binary folk getting into the space and really just taking up arms and spreading the good word, because it's going to take all of us working together to impact our communities individually so that we can affect the collective.
Definitely, and that I agree with that. That's why. Well, this was my first year actually going to Exotica. I tried last year, but of course, it got canceled. And it was just amazing to be in a space with so many people who are just so free to be themselves, so free to do what they do, and I was just like, gosh, this is amazing. Like these people are like, I'm like, because it's non-judgmental. It's a free space, and I'm like, because in a world where so many people are judgmental, I'm like, this is dope. Like I was just excited to be in that space, and I loved every bit of it. The seminars, I love the seminars. Because I got to learn a lot about different things, and the people in the seminars are so nice, and everyone's just so friendly to answer questions, no matter how big of a name they have. They were just all so nice and friendly. And
That's
so that's one of
that's
the
why I
things.
got into the work, because I've literally been at every Exotica in Chicago since they started 10 years ago. And I told myself, if I could come to this convention and feel comfortable, then I'm comfortable enough to be in this space. And what I found was that everyone was nice and accepting, and there was so much body positivity. Like, you see so many different body shapes and types when you go to Exotica, and everybody's welcomed, everybody's, loved, and people are just free to be themselves. And like, it feels like one big family reunion every single show. No matter if we just had a show the previous month, everybody's all happy and bubbly and smiling and just excited to see each other. So, if any of you out there have never heard of Exotica, it's the largest adult event dedicated to love and sex in the US. I serve as their seminar coordinator and resident sex expert. So I put together all of the lovely seminars that she just mentioned. So I bring sex experts from all over the country to lead a free seminar series. So when you come into the doors of Exotica, you literally get free sex education. Like, you don't have to pay extra to go to the classes. And these people are pretty accomplished. Some people are new to speaking publicly for the first time, but many of them have followings online, or, they've done some pretty impactful work in the world. So our next show is actually coming up this Friday in Edison, New Jersey. It's our biggest show. So if you happen to be in New York or New Jersey or the tri-state area, would highly suggest that you go out to Exotica this weekend, because it's going to be a movie.
Yeah, I had a chance last year to chat with Misty Stone, courtesy of one of my friends,
That's
and
my girl.
she said New Jersey was her favorite one. She said I'm definitely going to New Jersey. So that's what she said, and she was so down to earth too. I'm just like this is Misty Stone, and she's just
That's my
so
homie,
down.
man. That's my
Like
homie.
everyone's just down to earth, and that's what I love about it too. Like you said, the seminars were free, and let's just talk. Your seminar was amazing. Like
Thank
your partner was definitely amazing because I don't know how he did that. Just sitting down, he is amazing because I don't know how many men would be able to just literally be that person and not react. But he was so great. So, what made you start that class in particular?
Well, I started teaching how to ride in 2014, and it was at the request of like hundreds of women who were writing me on YouTube whenever I would have sex position tutorials with, women being on top or vulva owners being on top, and they'd be like, "This position's great, but I don't know what I'm doing." And so I decided to create a tutorial. So I created like my first tutorial was kind of like a music video, and it was sexy as hell. And then I created two other tutorials that were more like instructionals, how to ride part one and part two, which both have gone viral over and over again online. And I'm pretty sure have inspired other people to teach, riding classes or whatever. But before I put these videos out there and started teaching it, nobody was doing it, which was really surprising to me because I was like, wait, we got classes on how to suck dick. We got classes. Wait, can I say dick?
Yeah, you can say dick. That's one of my
Okay,
favorite
great.
words.
So I was like, we have classes on how to suck dick. We got classes on, hand jobs and things like that. But I wasn't saying anything on how to teach people, teach women how to ride properly, which is really teaching them how to stroke. So I started doing my research, and I broke it down based on the muscle groups that we use and strengthening those muscle groups. And I really attacked like the three common issues that women have: flexibility, stamina, and strength. Because every woman's like, my knees hurt, my legs burn, I'm tired in 30 seconds. And, I'm like, oh, well, I know why that is. It's because your hip flexors are tight. So you need to, increase your flexibility. You're tired and your stamina is low because you don't know how to breathe. And you don't have a regular workout routine that's helping you strengthen all the muscles that you use and engage to actually stroke back. So once I made those videos, a lot of people were like, good, got it, great. And then there was still a bunch that were like, I don't know. So I started touring with my class in 2016. I taught my first class at a male show, a male review. One of my partners at the time was a male dancer, and he basically put me on to one of his shows in Denver. The organizer wanted me to be there, and so I taught my first class in Denver, and then I set out on a world tour in April 2016, teaching my How to Ride class, and it's been sold out ever since. And I've taught pretty much everywhere. And so I brought the class to Exotica, which is a very short, abridged version of what I teach in my 2.5 hour masterclass. And it's always great because, like, usually, like pre-COVID, I would pull somebody from the audience who would want to volunteer as my partner. And it was
Gotcha.
always so much fun. But, COVID, I was like, yeah, I don't just want to be pulling randos from the crowd. So let me just have a partner.
Right.
But the seminar is always packed, and it always feels like the first time every time I teach it. And I like to teach sex education in a way that's entertaining, so it's edutainment, because it softens the impact. A lot of people already feel very nervous and anxious, especially with this skill, because a lot of vulva owners will come to me and with like desperation because they're like, I gotta master this because I'm sucking at sex. And so I teach it to empower women. I'm like, look, if you really want to get your orgasms, and if you want to snatch souls, and you really want to lock him down, you need to learn how to stroke back. Because if you have that as a skill, you're going to be in the top tier of people in this world who actually know how to make love. A lot of us who have vaginas we're literally just relying on our partners with penises, if we have partners with penises, to do most of the stroking, and we're not even stroking back when we are in the passive or in the submissive position. So, like, the reviews that I get are hilarious and also quite amazing. Like, some of my clients have been saying like their stamina is literally back to the point where it was when they were teenagers. One woman said that her husband went temporarily blind for 5 minutes after having after she rode him through his orgasm. I was like, damn. I said, see, that's that magic. Now she was like, oh, he be behaving now. I said, of course, because he knows that you got that juju. And the workout has been featured on exonicole.com, cosmopolitan.com, and Cosmopolitan UK, and on WeTV as well. So, y'all gotta check those articles. We out here. And there's more coverage of the workout to come that I can't talk about right now, but y'all will see it in 2022. I'm sorry, my dog is attention seeking. Hold on.
You're fine. You're fine. And we're definitely trying to get you to Kentucky. Listen, that is on the list, to get you to Kentucky to teach how to ride, because that's what a lot of girls hear. That's one of the biggest complaints that I get here is, well, riding and sucking dick are the two that a lot of guys say that I'm like, and I think when you mentioned that women are depending on man to give them pleasure, uh, I try to tell them all the time, you got to know how to pleasure yourself first before a man can pleasure you, because you better than anything, and then you can teach him, because a lot of guys are in it for themselves. You also have to find a partner that's in it for you, to learn you, because sometimes you don't get those guys who are just trying to get theirs and they're completely not worried about you, and you don't have to keep dating them if you don't want to, because yeah. But that's one of the biggest things that we have here, that I hear here, is that a lot of times women don't know how to ride. Guys are like, well, she just gets up there and she does the scooting thing, and then she just
Yeah.
doesn't do anything, and what's the scooting for? I'm like, it's giving her pleasure, probably not you, but it's giving her some pleasure. She is getting hers, but then sex is, there's two people in the room too, so I'm like,
Exactly. The
and
two
that, so
person
yeah,
show.
so
Well,
I'm
when it's
hoping we
partnered, it's a 2-person show.
you right. I'm hoping we can get you here for that, because the ladies would love it, and on top of that, it's an exercise. Like, you burning calories. I tell them all the time, sex, you burn calories. So you have sex the right way, you gonna get those calories together. Like, I'm trying to tell them, that's why I have sex. Work out, I have sex. You work out, I sex.
Listen, make no mistake about it. This class is teaching you how to stroke, but it is a fitness class. It is a movement class. And I started it because the average woman out here isn't moving. And I don't care, even if you go to the gym regularly, even if you do CrossFit, you do yoga, you do Zumba, whatever. Even if you do all of that, my workout's still gonna bust your ass, because we're utilizing muscles that you don't use on a regular. And so, and we also focus on pelvic floor development too. So increasing the mobility and the flexibility of the pelvic floor, so that you can also stroke just using your muscles too. So, Kentucky better get ready, because they're gonna be sweating their asses off.
Listen, I'm trying to tell them to get ready, because I one of my goals here in Kentucky. There's a few of us that I work with, because there's a few of us who are getting certified, who are out here really working. And it's a nice little network of us. So I'm hoping, I'm like, join. They're like, should I do that? If you really have a passion for it, I try to tell people all the time, come. Kentucky needs more black faces. Yeah, I've had man ask. I'm like, Kentucky needs man. They need man. Period. I think that man can reach, man will listen to man, and then they can reach women too. Sometimes men have harder times listening to women than they do to man.
It's the whole ego thing, you know what I mean? And honestly, truly, sexual knowledge has always been passed down through women. So if men were smart, they would actually listen to us, because we're actually sexually superior. And I'll tell you why. Because our orgasms are not attached to procreation. Our orgasms are literally all about pleasure. And orgasm is not the goal of sex, it's actually pleasure. But women, you know, we can go for longer amounts of time in sex. and we reach our sexual peaks at 40. So at 40, it's like we have a whole new turnaround and a whole new desire for sex, depending on your health, though. That's a disclaimer, depending on your health. So if men were smart, they would actually listen to us, because not only can we teach them about their bodies, those of us that are educated in this space, but we can teach you about your female partner's bodies as well, so that you understand why foreplay is necessary, why you can't use the same moves with every person you have sex with, why your mental and physical health are both important, and why sociological factors matter too. Like if your lady just started a new job and it's stressful, and she's a mom and has to take care of the kids, all that stuff impacts her sexuality as well, and her desire and her energy levels to even be able to perform. So, I really want more men to take their heads out of their asses and listen to us. Like, we're trying to help you. Everybody wants to have better sex, but how willing are you to listen and then apply the things that we're teaching you? And also, how willing are you to invest? Because we're not out here investing in our educations and certifications just to be out here giving y'all game for free on social media. This is a actual career path and livelihoods that we maintain. So you're not going to go to your dentist or your doctor or your therapist and ask them for free sessions. As soon as you walk into those offices, that you have to pay, and you have insurance for that. Well, guess what? We're the same way. Just because we're easily accessible on Instagram and we're putting out information doesn't mean that you can just ask us for advice for free, or ask us to give you life-changing advice just for off the love. Like, no. How willing are you to invest your time, energy, and finances into improving your sex life? That's the question you got to ask yourself.
I told them sometime, I tell people, when I ask for when they ask me into in-depth questions, I'm like, you gotta pay for that. Games to be sold, not told. I mean, we had to pay to go to school. Like, we gotta
Exactly.
pay. We have to pay for stuff too. So it is always to be sold, not told. You can get very bare minimum, not going into too many details. But if you want the real, they have to be willing to pay for it. And
Exactly.
one other thing, okay, so something that I really love, I seen that you are into tantric sex. Can you just give a definition of tantric sex for the people?
So I want to start with saying that people always jump to tantric sex before we
I
talk
know
about
I say it
tantra.
all the way wrong. I know.
Yeah, we always jump to tantric sex, which is the result of tantric practice. Tantric sex is sex that's more connected, essentially. But you don't have tantric sex until you actually practice tantra, and tantra can be practiced sexually and non-sexually. And the basis of tantra is facilitating connection and helping you to relax into pleasure. And you don't have to be, even though Tantra is rooted typically in like Buddhism or Taoism or like Eastern religious philosophies, you don't have to necessarily be a Taoist or a Buddhist to practice Tantra. As long as you're willing to breathe and communicate and feel into your body and meditate, that's really the basis of it all. And so I've always been naturally inclined to Tantra. And my mentor, she always says, if you're doing this work, if you're a practitioner, then you've been doing this work at some point in many of your lifetimes. So she always says, tantrikas are born, not made. So I've been doing this work for eons and eons of lifetimes, and I'm just picking the work back up here in this lifetime. And the thing about it is, like, in teaching people how to connect with themselves, we're also healing the energy body. And in healing the energy body, you're basically helping trauma to be released. So people want to jump to tantric sex, not realizing that the path to that means that you have to remove some blocks in order to first connect with your body and then to be able to connect with somebody else. So if you're not willing to face your shadows, you can totally use some elements of tantra, like eye gazing and syncing your breath, and your sex will feel even more amazing. But it's even deeper than that. It's like we use tantra for sexual healing. As tantric practitioners, we teach people how to heal themselves using their sexual energy. So if you're just only jumping to, oh, I just want to have deeper, more intensified sex, you're not really focusing on the fullness of what tantra can do for you. It can literally heal your body from the inside out. And for men specifically, this is male mastery. It teaches men how to separate their orgasm from their ejaculatory process, and it teaches them how to become multi-orgasmic. So then they can match us in our stamina, and they can match us as equals instead of, this pleasure gap existing. So men, I think, have an even more difficult time with embracing tantra, because the minute you tell them they can't ejaculate, it's like, oh, what? Because they don't understand that their bodies are biologically wired for procreation, and the orgasm that they're so used to and attached to doesn't know the difference between sex for pleasure and sex for procreation. And they don't know they can orgasm like 11 different ways. They only know this one way. So they're so attached to their cum and seeing their cum that they don't know that they can literally still experience orgasm without coming, and it's going to give them more vitality in life. Like, so, I always say the practices in tantra are simple, but people sometimes have resistance to doing the practices because of what comes up in the process. Again, this is healing work. It's not just, learn, like sucking a dick and, like meditation, breathing, connection, communication. If you're not able to do that first with yourself, how can you even do that with a partner? So I'll say, just for myself personally, tantra has absolutely like benefited my life in more ways than just in the bedroom. It's opened up so much for me. I've developed so much more compassion for people and empathy, and the innate gifts that I have been intensified because I practice tantra. And I see things shift and move in my life in ways that I've never seen it before. And I know how to heal myself because I'm using these tantric practices. So there's like a bunch of different like forms of tantra out there. A lot of it's neo tantra that's been appropriated by white folk. A different conversation for another time. But if you want to study tantra, you want to find tantra that is lineage based, meaning it ties back to some type of lineage or like religious practice. So there's Egyptian tantra, there's Tibetan tantra, there's Chinese tantra, which is Taoism, and there's Hindu tantra. So those are all like the original tantras. So in the West, and it's like really popular now to talk about tantra because Westerners have taken it and pretty much bastardized it, like watered it down completely and threw some of their own stuff into it, and they've taken like some of the original elements out of it, and it's not really the fullness of what it's supposed to be. So highly suggest checking out authentictantra.com if you are interested in starting your tantric journey. And from there are other sources that the website has that will lead you to other forms of tantra if you're interested. But that's my sangha, that's my tantra family. That's what I'm certified in. So anybody interested, you want to join with me as your practitioner, you can totally hit me up. And in 2022, I'm actually developing my tantra community online and here in Chicago, so that we can start practicing together. Because the more you practice tantra, the more you accumulate merit, the more you accumulate the medicine in your body, the deeper you get into it. And so you just experience so much bliss, and like just like you have so many beautiful experiences the more you practice it. And then when you practice it with other people, the potency is even stronger. Tantra is a practice you can do solo, but when you do it with others, it's so much more powerful. So if you are looking into it, start with authentic tantra. Because and also, don't try to like go and buy books and try to do it on your own. You need a practitioner, because you can hurt yourself. You totally hurt yourself with some of the practices because you don't understand it, and you don't understand the depth of it, especially when you start working in your energy. Get a practitioner, right?
That's what I tell people. I'm like, I'm not versed in that because I think when you say the word sex expert, sexologist, people feel like that we're versed in everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, hold on. I options. I gotta choose what I want to be versed in and what I don't want to be versed in. I'm not just out here swinging from trees, and I'm not doing everything. Calm down. they, they just seem to think you hear those words and that you do every single thing. And I'm like, calm down. We don't do everything. That's why they have different people for different things. I'm like, they're like, oh well, you do. No, hold on. I have a partner that does that. I'll get you to the right person. That's what I said. So when it comes to that, I'm like, I can send you to Google to get a definition, but you need to really research and find your way with that because I'm not the one. So I'm glad we talked about that because a lot of people have asked me about that. A lot of people want to have that kind of sex, but I'm like, I don't even know if you're ready to do that because regular sex is, you gotta not don't please don't dig that deep, especially if you don't know your partner. I'm like, you gotta have
Or know
somebody
yourself.
that too. I'm like, you gotta be ready. Like that's something that, like I said, I told someone eventually I'll start diving into it. But I was like, hey, give me time. Hold on. I'm just let me catch up. I'm just getting here, I'm just getting certified. Slow down. I don't know everything. But they hear those words and apparently you're just supposed to get out here and be this perfect person at sex. And I'm like, I'm still learning, that's the point of me being a teacher and a student. I have to learn from people, which is why, people like you exist. I originally started it too because of Dr. Ruth and Sue Johansson. They were some of the people I used to follow when I was younger. Don't ask me why I was younger and following them, but I was. And I'm like, that she talks about sex on TV. That's neat. She's old. I want to be like her. I want to be older talking about sex. Like I told people, I want to be 80 years old and still talking about sex. I
That's
don't know.
like Joan
Everybody
Price. I love her. And Betty Dotson.
just
And
be,
it's crazy because like we can rattle off these names easily and they're all white women. And I'm looking forward to seeing Black women be as old as they are and we can rattle off their names too and say we're still doing this work and we're just as impactful.
definitely, definitely. And I think that is, so if you could give somebody a piece of advice coming into this world, trying to work in this world, what was something you would tell them?
Develop tough skin and know your purpose and why you're doing it. If you're doing it as a cash grab, you're going to be disappointed because coming out the gate and coming out the game, it may not, um, if money is your motivation, that's not the right motivation. The motivation is to help people and to bring more liberation to this world. The money will come, absolutely, but you have to be grounded and rooted in why you do this and who you serve. It's about service because there is a worldwide attack on our work. And so, coming into this, you have to understand that there are powers that exist that don't want us to even be in this space. And so you're going to be dealing with censorship. You're going to be dealing with people misunderstanding you and mislabeling you. You're going to be dealing with trolls and people who are going to attack you when you're public about this stuff. You're going to deal with your family not understanding what you do. You're going to deal with so many judgments and if you don't have a solid foundation for why you do this, you're going to burn out and you're going to leave the work. I've seen it happen over the last 10 years that I've been in this space. I've seen people who started out and they've moved on to something else because they burnt out. This is legitimately a fight. It's like we are like activists, but our activism is sexual liberation. So if you're not willing to stand up for this when it counts, which is consistently, because if you've seen the abortion bans, if you've seen all the censorship shit that's happening with people getting shadow banned and blocked and pages taken down and deactivated and all of that. If you haven't seen any of that, you need to get in tune because that's what you are literally preparing yourself for. And so just remember why you're doing it. We are here to be of service. We are here changing lives. We are here liberating people. We're helping people heal. So think about that because I wouldn't be standing here 10 years later still in this work if I didn't have a passion for it and if I didn't have a passion for helping people live as free as I do. If it was all about the money, I would have given up a long time ago. But it wasn't about that. And also, if you're doing it to fluff yourself up or to be popular, that's also not the right motivation, Like, listen, everybody isn't going to be a mega star in this space, but every single last person who is in this space matters because you're affecting your community. Your community needs you just as much as the rest of the world needs you, you know? But if you're trying to seek like fame and stardom through this, another motivation that's just not going to produce longevity for you. So know who you are, know who you represent, know who you are here to serve, and also know your niche. You know, like Nene said, there's so many things that you can know about sex, and it doesn't mean that you have to be well versed in all of them. Everybody has their specialty. Like Auntie Angel for 20 plus years has been teaching people how to suck dick with a grapefruit. That was her specialty. She created that, and she's traveled the world and been on all kind of platforms from the grapefruit technique. And she didn't deviate from that. She didn't teach tantra. She wasn't teaching kink. She wasn't doing, no, she stuck with what her niche was, and she doubled down on it. So know what your niche is. What do you feel passionate about? What are you good at teaching? What do you want to teach others? You know, where do you show up the most powerful in your skill set? And just stick to that and be the best at that. You don't have to be a jack of all trades, you know?
And I listen, I definitely agree with that. And I definitely agree with the tough skin because of course people have said a lot and I'm just like, well, I told someone they asked me if I've ever dated a woman and I was like, no. They was like, I find that hard to believe. I was like, gosh, why? And she was like, well, you're a sex expert.
Yeah, the judgments that people have based on
I,
your title is so funny. It's like people assuming that you just down to do a threesome without getting your consent, just because you
exactly.
say you're a sex expert or that you just be fucking every day. Like, are you kidding me? You know how much work goes into running a brand and running a business around sex? I don't always have time to even masturbate. You know what I mean? So no.
Exactly. And I tell people that all the time. I'm like, no, I'm like, I don't knock anybody who does anything. I'm all about, like I said, this world has expanded my brain. It's let me see a lot. And I love people who are in different spaces. Someone was like, you do porn? I'm like, what? Like, have you seen a porno of me or something that I don't? I'm like, no. I'm like, but I don't. I love porn stars and I would definitely support them wholly because I watch them to no end. But I'm like, no, I don't do porn. I'm like, you just, I'm like, y'all take it left. So you definitely, I agree with that tough skin and the judgment. And people are like, well, what are you like again? Like, what are you here for? Why do you have a? People don't need help with sex. Yeah, they do. But
That's what you think.
I'm
That's
like,
what you
we
think.
wouldn't be around if we wouldn't be around if people didn't need help with sex.
It's crazy
But
because
I don't want.
people's
Go
views
ahead.
are very narrow, and it's funny how they try to tell someone who's literally whew,
Bless
hold
you.
on. Whew. They try to tell somebody who's literally in this space and who takes up the work and does research and literally looks for things, right? Within sexual health and sexual dysfunction and whatnot. And they try to tell us with their limited field scope of, with their limited scope, they try to tell us, excuse me, what's real and what's not. What? No, like you cannot tell me people don't need help with sex when my inbox is filled with people asking me questions every single day. You can't tell
I
me
agree.
that when my YouTube feed and my Twitter feed filled with people needing help with sex. And a lot of people are still silent about the fact that they need help with sex and they're not talking about it. And it's not until they come across some content that you've created or content that I've created or anybody else in this space have created where they finally, work up the nerve to reach out and say, oh my God, can you help me with this? Like, so people can just shut the fuck up talking about stuff you don't know about. Like,
Exactly. That kills me. But I'm like, that's what you said. You have to have a certain level of tough skin, and it's not. I don't know why they thought that you were just gonna come out and make money from it or something. I'm like, I had to do some pro bono things because I got to help people out. I mean, I can't just come out here and say and have you trust my word that I know. I have to show you, and we have to build a trust that you understand what I know, what I'm doing. And so I love that advice that you have, because I do have a lot of people here that I think would be good in the world. I have a lot of friends asking. I'm like, you have to be open minded though. That's one thing I tell them. If you're closed minded, this isn't for you. Like this is not something that you need to be doing if you are a closed minded person, because there's so much to see, so much to do, and you can't judge someone because they sex differently than you if you're going to be in this world. Like
Oh,
everybody's sex is different.
you gotta be sex positive in this space. You cannot enter into this space with being sex negative. And the first thing you should do is really examine your sexual hangups and traumas before you try to advise anybody else. I mean, I have grown so much from 22 to 33, and every year it's something new. And even me as a coach, I have coaches in this space, and mentors and people who I rely on to help me dive deeper into areas that I'm not as versed on. Like I would not be as comfortable speaking about kink and fetishes if I hadn't gotten coaches back in 2016 to help bring me safely into the lifestyle and educate me, and then give me resources to be able to educate others. When it comes to like kink coaching, I always reference out to them, but I can get them started with basic definitions and basic terminology and um, different ways to express themselves within certain kinks and fetishes. But when they want to go deeper, I reference out to my coaches. You know what I mean? So it's good to have a network. But if you're not examining the things within yourself that are unresolved or unhealed, then you're going to be projecting that shit onto your clients. And that makes you a horrible, excuse me, let me change that language. That makes you an unfit practitioner. You're not fit to coach people if you first don't examine the shadows within yourself. You can't tell somebody else how to face their shadows sexually if you're not doing it.
It, I wholly agree. That's why before I started, well, the reason I started because of trauma, past trauma for me. But I had to face that trauma and really see through that trauma, see myself through it before I can even say anything to anyone else. But that led me to being here too. That along with how I felt like Black people were so, especially Black women are just so kind of squeamish about sex, and I'm like, no, you can talk about sex. Like, who told you you can't talk about sex?
The
You can
pastor
talk
did.
about it. Yeah, that's I'm like, but the pastor went home and had sex. He might have had sex with his wife. He might not have had sex with his wife. I don't know, but pastor does stuff. I'm like, you're listening to the wrong people. And I wanted that to create that space, especially for Black women to be more comfortable and Black men to realize, because a lot of one of the things that I see a lot of that I like to say is, when it comes to anal playing men, um they get to that whole, oh my god, that's gay. I'm like, is it? No, that's a woman playing with him. That's
That's
completely.
program homophobia, and that's very common in our community. Within our
It's too.
culture, there is some inbred, intrinsic homophobia, and we got to call it for what it is. It is homophobia. You're not gay if your asshole is being played with by a woman. Even if your asshole being played with by a man, doesn't mean that you're homosexual. Homosexuality means having a primary attraction to the same sex. You can totally have some homosexual experiences, but it doesn't make you a homosexual. And even then, people still don't understand that concept. They're like, oh, what are you talking about? That's not possible. All right, I'm going to stop talking to you right now because I'm telling you a fact and you're trying to debate me. I'm not going to debate you because you're not factual right now. I'm telling you facts. If you don't want to believe it, you go ahead with that. Go off, but I'm gonna block you because I ain't got time. Like,
that's exactly how, I mean, that's how it usually ends up. But then you have the ones that are open-minded, so it gives you a reason. It makes you, when you see people, I guess the satisfaction I get from is when I actually see people who I've helped and see people who are like, oh, ask her, she got you. I'm like, gosh, I'm like, you have faith in me. Like, you have faith in me to teach you some things. That's amazing. So the job is definitely rewarding on that
absolutely.
end. So I
It,
and I love, like, I listen, y'all, when I ran up on her at Exotica, and she was just so welcoming. Like, she wasn't stand up. She was just so friendly. And I was like, oh my God, like, I got that vibe from you already from your accounts and stuff. I'm like, she's a friendly person. But in this world, it pays to be friendly too, you just being friendly. And everybody was literally friendly. I think I've seen so many people. I've seen so much ass, so many titties. Like, I seen so much going on at this point. Like, I seen a lot going on. I was just like amazed. Like, it was so many beautiful women in that space, and it was great to see all women, but to see the Black women in that space was just it was dope. And how everybody just got along, and seeing all y'all pictures afterwards. I'm like, everybody just loves each other.
yeah,
I'm
it's
like, this
one
is
big family. Like when you come on this side, it literally is greener because you're free. People talk about members of the LGBTQIA community, like why they always so happy, like why they look like they just living free, living their best life, because they are, because they know who they are and they live it out loud and proud. Those of us who are sexually liberated, we know who we are. We're loud and proud, and we live in our best lives because we're not sitting up here trying to hide or repress our urges or repress our desires. We act out on them. And also, people who are sexually liberated, every other aspect of our lives opens up too. I mean, your sexual energy is connected to your money. Like, like what? Why wouldn't you want to connect with your sexual energy if you knew that it was attached to your creative process and your money making? So that's why we be out here looking how we looking, living how we living, because we having good ass sex. We know who we are, and we proud of that, and we stand in that. We don't allow anybody to shift us out of those spaces. But I love Exotica because when people go in there, they change. They change because they recognize and they see, like, oh wow, this is a lot different than what I would thought it was gonna be. Especially when they meet their favorite stars they've been beaten off to. It's like it's like, oh wow, this person is actually real. Like they're a real person. Wow. It's like, yeah. They pay
it,
bills like you.
yeah, I know. I took my boyfriend went with me. He was my cameraman, and he was just, for him, like, nothing really excites him a lot, and he was in there like, oh, this is nice. I'm like, look at the ass, just ass everywhere. And I'm like, it's ass. And like the guy said, you can look, like, you can just look, and you don't have to feel like you're being perverted. You can stare and see stuff. And I'm like, that's why I love that experience. So I was like, next year I'm gonna try to go to Chicago, try
Oh,
to go to
come
New York.
through. Come
I
through.
listen, I heard about Chicago. I heard about
It's my
Chicago.
city, man. We get lit out here.
So next year, listen, I'm definitely gonna try to go to Chicago. I'm trying to go to DC later this year, because one of my friends, a couple of my friends who are in the industry with me from here, are going to DC. So I'm gonna try to go to DC with them, so they'll be there. They love you too, so I'm pretty sure some more Louisville people will run up on you and say hi. I'm pretty sure they will. So I mean, everybody I talk to, like, oh, I know her. I'm like, y'all know her? I'm like, y'all know who she is. And it makes me proud that people know people in this industry, though. I'm like, oh, okay, so I have to explain to you who that is. I'm like, okay, that
Well,
makes a lot of
I've gotten around. I've gotten around, all right. And one thing that I'm launching next year, I'm launching a program to teach people, not just people in the sex space, but anybody, whether, like, no matter what kind of expert you are or what kind of business you have, how to get press without a PR. Because when you're first starting out, you don't really have a budget for marketing like that. But it's really easy. I've been doing this for 10 years without a publicist. And I've been on top publications, major publications. Like I just did an interview with the doctors on CBS, and they found me through a Google search. How they find me through a Google search? Because my search engine optimization is strong. How do you do that? It's very easy. So, for those who are just jumping into the field, specifically speaking to, those in the sex space, will behoove you to follow me so you know when that program is dropping, so you can invest in that and then get your press up. Because when you are published, it establishes you as an authority. And when you're established as an authority, then people take you more seriously and they pay you more money. So
I'm
just
I'm
saying.
I'll definitely I'll definitely be in that class. Listen, I'm definitely gonna take that one because I think one of my biggest things is like Facebook likes to block me, and I'm
That
like,
see.
Inst- Instagram blocked my main Instagram, so I'm like, what? You're just gonna? Because I
Oh,
had
it's getting worse.
yeah,
It's
I had a
getting worse.
painting tip. It was I do an erotic painting tip, so I had nude models, and I'm like, I posted this video like 3 months ago. You just now blocked. I'm like, what? So Twitter is I'm like Twitter's the only one who's not trying to block me. Uh, tw- what is it called? TikTok hates me. I'm like TikTok doesn't let you. I'm like this is crazy. Like you really can't get. It's hard to get a lot of things. So that something like that would be good for people, especially in this industry, trying because these social media sites are so finicky.
These so. Here go my soapbox. I'm stepping on. Okay, so these social media sites claim that they're trying to protect children, and no, that's not really what it's about. These advertisers are puritanical as hell, and they're trying to censor this content. But what's interesting is that they pick and choose who they censor, and who they typically target are melanated folk, fat folk, politically radical folk, um, disabled folk. And so you could literally see somebody else who's posted something similar and their shit's not taken down because they don't fall within the categories that they're actively choosing to block. That's why I have not been that active on social media since May. I pick and choose when I want to go on. And I've also had, and this is something else for anybody getting into this industry, if you do not have the gift of knowing how to pivot, you're going to be fucking frustrated. Because if you're relying solely on Facebook, Instagram, social media in general to be the caretaker or the platform for your information, you're gonna be screwed if your page gets completely taken down. And so you have to find different ways to pivot and still put the information out there that's within guidelines, that still expresses who you are through the work and gets the information across and is palatable to the public and still engaging and eye-catching. So you got to be able to pivot and to be able to adhere to guidelines. I don't like saying conform because I ain't conforming to shit. All right. But I've definitely taken a step back because I'm like, all right, going forward, how am I going to post? What am I posting? You know, and I'll be shook. I'm not gonna lie, I'll be shook sometimes to post certain things because I'm like, damn, I got too much flesh showing. Like I could never go on Instagram like this. Like if I go on
Yeah, yeah,
Instagram live like this, they blocking my ass.
yeah. Because I think I can't type dick on Facebook. Everybody else can
Oh
type
no.
dick. I type dick, they taking my page.
You
I
gotta
was like,
spell it. So when even typing out these words, you gotta spell them differently. If you're gonna type dick, you gotta put D exclamation point CK. If you're gonna do
yeah, that's what
sex,
I've been having
S
to do that.
E, I mean S3X. Or what I do is I capitalize each letter and I put a space between them.
Huh? Okay, I haven't tried that one yet.
Because
I'm
the
gonna try.
algorithm is going to read it as individual letters. It's not going to read it as a word.
Yeah,
You
because
got to be
and Facebook,
smarter than the AI.
you got to because they went back now. So every time my memories come up, they went back and blocked me from something I did 2 years ago on Facebook. I'm like,
Yeah.
so every time my memories come up, if it says dick, I'm going and deleting the word dick and putting stars or something. I'm like, let me take this off because you're gonna block me again. So every time
Yeah.
my memories come up, I'm switching something, trying to get it. Instagram just didn't give me my page back. They said you got one. I only did one violation. They were like, your page is gone. So I was like, well,
Yeah.
okay.
They
So
need.
my thing here now, mostly here to get word out about a lot of my stuff, I go out. I have to be out. I go on the scene. He's like, I'm like, I'm gonna go here, talk to these people, and that's how most people have learned about me is because I went out on the scene. I had to be outside talking to people. You can't block me, and you can't block me outside. You can't.
Look, that's the oldest form of promotion is word of mouth. And when people see you and you're talking and you're handing cards out, you're building rapport and they're getting to know who you are. Look, old school methods still work to this day. So don't negate just getting out here, going to events and promoting yourself. You know what I mean? Like that's the easiest form. Even though we're a digital world, in your own community, there's thousands of people who need your services. And so if you're going out, especially even if you live in a small town, if everybody in that small town know who you are, then you've done your job. Then you move to the next small town. You know what I mean? So
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to do in Kentucky. Kentucky we just sound so country. Louisville's pretty big though, but I slowly but surely I just get the word out in Louisville because that's my goal is to make my hometown at least educate them. At least if I can't do it here, I'm trying to get the city to open up a little bit more. The paint and sip so far have they grow every year. So people are loving the new female models. And I'm like, they don't disrespect my models because they know if you disrespect them, you gotta go. They're doing this for art. They're not doing this for you to touch and grope them. So you gotta go. So so
well,
so far,
I was gonna say if you ever need, a model, I've been a figure model for colleges and private art groups for about 7 years.
okay,
So
okay.
I do short poses and I do long poses. So if you ever need a model.
Okay, I got you. Listen, because my we have a live. She does a live body painting. So what it does, like they have females where if you pay a certain amount, VIP, you can paint the models, and then she does one where she has a live. My artist live paints too. So I
Right.
will definitely keep you in mind. I mean, they will love your body. They love your face. You're just so gorgeous. They love everything about you. They love you. But I don't want to hold you too long. But before you go, is there anything? Just tell what's one random fact about you that you could tell somebody? One random fact.
I have a twin.
That is that when I seen that, I was like literally, like oh my
Yes, I have a
goodness.
twin. She's my biggest fan. She's my best friend. And, she's always going to ride for me. Like she was one of my very first investors in my business. When every man that ever said he was going to help me do something never came through, she was like, fuck them. I got you. And that's why sisterhood is so big for me. And this is why I cater to women primarily, because women are always the first responders and the ones to open their pocketbooks to say, I'm ready to learn. I want to invest with you. Let's go. So, shout out to my sister, Nurse J Becky on Instagram, my
And they
best
look just
friend.
like literally twins. Like
Yeah.
literally, I was like, it's literally two. I'm like, God, that threw me off because I didn't see that at first. I was like, oh, at first I was like, did she posted her twice? Or is this really her sister? Oh, it's really another. So that's a dope random fact. So tell the people how they can find you.
Well, you can find me on YouTube. That's youtube.com/Glamouratica101. You can check out my sex education blog, Glamouratica101.com. I'm relaunching in 2022. So I'll be back on there posting up lots of free information. I'll be launching Glamourotica TV, my adult streaming service, in 2022 as well. And you can find me on Instagram at Real Glamazon Tayomi and on Twitter Glamazon Tayomi. They got a little sensitivity thing on my page, so just follow me and you'll be in on all our conversations and stuff. And I'm on Snapchat too, but I'm kind of like touch and go with Snapchat. It's Real Glamazon Ty. And yeah, if you don't remember any of that, you can literally put Tayomi or Glamazon Tayomi, Tyomi, or Tommy Morgan into Google, and you will find everything about me: articles, interviews, OnlyFans shit. You will find a lot of stuff about me online.
Y'all definitely make sure y'all check her out. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so glad I got you on here. So glad I got to talk to you. And hopefully in 2022, we'll get it in Kentucky. We'll get the class in Kentucky. That's the goal, y'all. We
Hey,
need to bring
all I'm
the
saying is I'm planning my 2022 world tour right now with my booking manager in Louisville. Listen, if y'all want me to add y'all to this list, I'm gonna need y'all to save your coins and make that request because, I want to come down, but I need to make sure there's enough of y'all that's going to support this thing. And, we're going to have some local vendors and people in your town who do this work as well. So it will be a collaborative effort. I'll be teaching a class, but I always like to spotlight other experts in the area as well, so that you understand people are in your neighborhood, in your backyard, that literally do this. So let's go, Louisville, because y'all got to
I
stop screwing on these dicks now. I got
listen.
to stop.
We're gonna listen, y'all. We gotta rally. We gotta get her to come here. And I know a few people interested, but I need y'all to show me that y'all interested. And also shout out to your assistant. She's dope with the email. She's really good. Like she replies. She's so nice. Tell her I love her. Thank you
Oh, I
so much
love
for
her
coming.
dearly. Shout out to Adetun. She is Nigerian. She's phenomenal. She's made my life so much better. So I will let her know that you said that,
Yeah,
because it'll make her
she's
smile.
definitely dope. And thank you so much for coming on Nene and Night. I will definitely be in touch with you. And I love you and thank you for coming.
Love you, Nene. I'll see
Yeah.
you in DC.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.